Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast presented by We Know Fantasy. As always, my name is Nate with We Know Fantasy, and here, as always, my co-host Jake. Jake, how we doing today?
We're doing good. How about yourself, Nate?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. The weather's turning for the better here in not upstate in Northeast Pennsylvania. It's supposed to be upwards of 70 degrees later this week, so spring's in the air, and that means we got some pretty important golf to talk about. The players right here with us, but also joining us this week is Keith Fleming. Keith, how we doing?
Doing good. I forgot that you're in Pennsylvania. So you going to WrestleMania? Because I would be going to WrestleMania 1,000% with a rock back if I was that close to
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
right
Like, how
down in.
far are you?
Oh, it's probably still 3.5, 4 hours.
Oh, I'd make that trip for sure.
I'm about 2 minutes away from the New York border, but man, yeah. If so, right now my kids are so into wrestling, so into
Are they
wrestling.
really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
like so into it. So if I were to try to, take three kids and myself and my wife, we're looking at another
They got a
mortgage.
second
So
mortgage. Yeah.
I don't think I can go myself and let myself deal with the guilt of leaving my kids out for that. So we'll
At least
watch
you can
on.
watch it though. Because my wife
Yes,
is like, "Why are you watching wrestling? You're a grown man." I'm like, "I like it. Leave me alone."
I
Okay.
was out of it for so long, and then my kids started getting into it, and now I catch myself, every
You're
Monday,
back
every
in.
Friday, every pay per view. I'm I'm tuned in as much as they are.
It's been really good though, the last year
It
for
has
real.
been. It has been.
As good as I can remember when I was, obviously the height of like Stone Cold and all that stuff. I love it.
Yeah, but Keith, you've been on several times here. I think the last time, though, it's been a while. I think the Ryder Cup was the last time we talked to you here on the podcast.
We called
So
that shit, did we not?
yes, we did. We were obviously Team USA all through and through, but we were all super scared of what Team Europe was going to do and how amped up everyone was for this juggernaut of USA to come in here and roll through things, and didn't go that way. Did
No,
not
it
go
did
that
not.
way.
That
Uh,
European team was loaded and nobody wanted to talk about it. I didn't understand it while we were, like favorites. I'm like, this is the best European team ever.
oh
And
my
they
gosh.
dominate us in this event. Like they already kick our ass, especially when we, go away. So I was not feeling very confident. We tried to, we don't want to be un-American or anything. We're rooting for them, but we're just like, if you're doing DFS gambling, I'd lean to the other side.
Yes. Yeah, and I think Trey Tedford was with us, and we
Yep.
were all on the same side of things. We were hopeful, but we were scared at the same
Cautiously
time,
optimistic.
and that's what happened. That's what happened. But Keith, what have you been up to since you? I know you've got the fantasy six pack going on and things like that. So what have you been up to?
Just getting back into golf. Really went hard at DFS football this year. Had by far my best season. Like personally, financially, also did very well with the picks. Felt very lucky to get to come on Fantasy Six Pack. They have like it's still me and Joe have always done the show, but just having resources of Detroit Beastie, Chris Robin, and Dave Eddy, who have been doing this thing for forever. It was honestly felt like I was going to class again, and it worked. I mean, it's the more I listened to them and kind of adjusted my thought process, the better I did. So really thankful for that. But I love golf. It's my favorite sport. I was an assistant pro for years. I've managed golf courses since I got out of college, and I'm worried about the PGA Tour a little bit because it's just there's them and Liv they're fucking this thing up real bad. Like we should be able to watch the best players play together. I mean, at this point now, like let's just get it done. I was one of those people that little anti-live just because what the PGA was selling, I thought there was some truth to it. Your sellouts, just blood money, all that. And then what they do, they went right back and sold out immediately. So they showed that was not anything of what it was about. So let's just get back to playing golf. But I am concerned because 4 events a year is not enough, in my opinion. And some of the guys are not even going to get into the majors because they still don't get the world golf rankings. They need to fix this. This needs to be priority number one. And it doesn't feel like either tour feels that way at this moment.
Yeah, we're just a couple months away from that year announcement of the merger, and it's still so unclear. It has no clarity since I think it was the week of the Canadian Open is
Yep.
when it was released last year. So we're getting close, and still nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of concern from both sides. I think Liv's kind of the driver's seat at this point. Not going to lie, uh, but again, we're here talking to players. The quote unquote fifth major of the season. A lot of good stuff coming out here. And Keith, we're glad to have you on here.
I
But
appreciate it, man. Love your work
where
always.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Where can you find you on social media, Keith?
Okay, you can find all my stuff basically on my Twitter page /X. I hate saying that.
Yeah,
At
we
Keith
get it
Fleming.
messed up all
That's
the time still.
it's so stupid. At branding is like the most important thing in the world, and you have like the greatest brand ever in Twitter. Like, we're gonna change it to X. Screw everybody. But it's at Keith Fleming. That's KEITHFLEMMING. Still doing golf coverage for Fantasy Six Pack. Have an article each week. Favorite 10 DK plays, some of my favorite bets. Me and Alan get together on Tuesday night, preview the tournament on Fantasy Six Pack. And then actually started doing a fantasy football show on Thursday with Fantasy and Friends with Kevin Tompkins and Jorge Edwards. And this is not your normal fantasy show. We literally don't put any kind of notes or anything before it. We just get on there and shoot the shit. And I'm having a blast doing it because, I'm such a data nerd. It's hard for me not to prepare and overdo. And Jorge's like, no, I'm not sending you any outline. You just got to be ready to go. We'll talk about whatever. There's no limit. So it's been a blast. We've only done 3 episodes, but that's every Thursday night at 8 p.m. on Fantasy and Friends.
There we go. Now I don't feel so bad about not getting you an outline for this show.
Well, I knew the deal though. I've been here, so I knew I knew coming in. Yeah.
Simple stuff. Jake, where can we find you on social media?
Yep. You can find me at the Jake Freeman on Twitter. I've been posting stuff all week about the players, and coming down the stretch on Sunday last week was definitely a little bit of a thrill. Even though Scotty is a little boring to me. I mean, he was just playing lights out golf. Hard to not appreciate his iron play, and he led the field in putting, which is something that I thought I'd never say about Scotty Scheffler. So I saw a tweet about like transporting Scotty's putter to TPC Sawgrass, and it was like a god meme of people carrying it very softly. But yeah, give me a follow there. Also join our Discord, completely free, over 150 members. We talk about golf every single day, pretty much 24 hours a day. DFS outright plays. We were talking last night at like 1 a.m. about the market's opening and like what lines we could jump on and what we should wait for. So yeah, but that group chat's going. Nate's the early morning guy. I'm the late night guy, but we have a great community there. So definitely highly encouraged to join. You can find the link on my Twitter, also Nate's Twitter, and in my article on the We Know Fantasy website.
Simple enough. And as always, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKFNate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. Visit baseball, basketball, football, NASCAR, golf, everything between. You have you covered. A few highlights on there. Draft season is approaching for fantasy football, dynasty, all of that. The NFL draft. Some of that content will be coming up there as well. Fantasy baseball right around the corner. I'll be having some sleeper series articles coming out and some weekly waiver wire articles as well for that. On the We Know Fantasy Podcast Network, we have WKF Cody and his wife Devin have a fantastic fantasy NASCAR podcast doing what we do here. They break down the week that is, the week that was, all for their picks, and they've been very good at this last year. They were very successful, and already to the start of the season, they're making money doing so. So if you're looking for another avenue of sports gambling, but who doesn't love that? But if you're a NASCAR fan, nonetheless, hop over there as well. On the website, hopping back there, my weekly out of the rough articles, DP World Tour, PGA Tour, and LPGA majors, thorough breakdowns, favorite DFS plays, outright card, all of that can be found on there. But let's hop into what the people are here to listen about. The Players Championship, the quote-unquote 5th major. And Keith, I don't know how you feel about this event now. It used to be kind of the kickoff to the season. This is when we got the best in the world in one place for the first time, on a calendar year before, the Masters coming up. But with the introduction of last year, the elevated events, this year, the signature events, the allure of the players has kind of diminished a bit, in my opinion. But you still think there's some kind of prestige to this event, or did the elevated / signature events kind of take away some of that?
No, I still think this is the 5th major. If I was a PGA Tour player, obviously I'd rather win one of the 4 majors. But if not, this would be the trophy I want to win. And it's just about look at the history and the winners. And it's just basically you can take a snapshot of a decade of golf by looking at 10 years of the players, and the guys that are consistently there are usually the best golfers in the world. It's a golf course. It's not tailored to any one player. I think it's a great track. Test every part of your game. And it's a little bit of a bummer that Scheffler, won here last year. Yes. And then he finds his putter. And I don't know if you guys are too young for this, but all I could think of Happy Gilmore and, Happy learned how to putt. And that's all I could think of Scheffler on the back nine, because the PGA Tour is in big, big trouble if he just starts gaining strokes regularly on the field or just not losing a ton. Because, what Jake was saying, he is right now for the last, 16 months on historic peak Tiger ball striking numbers. And I know that he is not a sexy player like Tiger. He doesn't have the flash, and so he doesn't get the attention. And he still, granted, has not won at the rate that Tiger did at any point either. But if he figures out the putting, I think it's coming, especially when I know people want to talk about this, but Rahm's left. There's some really talented guys that are not there. So it's a little weaker fields, even in the big events. And I think Scheffler has a real chance to take kind of a stranglehold on this tour this year. And I think golf needs it. I think they need a villain. I think they need somebody to dominate. And then that way people can either root for him or against him. That's what Tiger was. That's what Jack was. And I think Scheffler's in a great chance to do that because Rory hadn't been able to do it. Spieth hadn't been. We've had a lot of guys that got close to it and they kind of had the mantle for a minute. But this is the first dude that it's just, between his swing being unique and but the ball striking numbers now, since he came on, have been really good. In the last 16 months, it's honestly only peak Tiger is slightly better. And it's just like by that. But I love this event. And, I would be careful because I think it's 17 of the last 18 winners were top 45 in the official world golf ranking. So probably not going to get too crazy on the betting board. You can take your long shots. I have a feeling, much like last week, this is going to be an event that the cream usually rises to the top at this course.
Yeah, you mentioned it there, and I alluded to it in my article this week. It's kind of becoming the Scotty show, right? I mean, we all saw the speculation and the hubbub about his putter, the switch of the putter, and if it was going to make a difference. And by golly, it did. 4.7 strokes gained on the greens last week. And if he's
Did you see the first putt on Thursday, though? That's what was so funny. He had like 6 feet on Thursday, and they were talking for 10 minutes on the telecast about he's got this new putter, and he made the worst freaking stroke I've ever seen, to where the announcer goes, well, that was just a dreadful stroke. And I'm like, well, this is not going to go well. And then he made everything basically from the back nine that first round on.
Yeah, I don't think, again, he gained a ton of strokes on the greens. I just don't think he is going to be able to replicate this week in, week and out. And that's the good part of what we need with, chasing him down, because you mentioned it. Tee to green numbers are that of prime Tiger Woods. There's no doubt about that. He's essentially a robot when he has a driver or an iron in his hand. There's no errant shot. It's going to be put where he wants it. And then it's just a matter of what he can do on the greens to make up for it. But yeah, I think that you mentioned it'd be a good thing for golf to have someone that is the predominant favorite to win each and every week, because you're going to get, half the tour loves to see it. Same thing with Tiger Woods. I remember growing up, my grandmother, she hated Tiger Woods. I want to say hate, but she hated someone winning all the time. In every sport, she hated the team that would be winning all the time. In NASCAR, she didn't like Jeff Gordon because he won so much. Tiger Woods and that Serena Williams in tennis because she won all the time. So she didn't like that. So I remember growing up, and I know I kind of kick myself now because, one, I thought golf was boring while prime Tiger Woods is on the television, and two, I only watched golf with her, so it kind of made me root against Tiger as well. But yeah, I think it'd be a great for the game in the sense of, like you said, a villain, even though nothing about Scotty Scheffler is a villain. I mean, the guy is as clean as they come. He's just a boring looking guy that has one heck of a golf swing, and that's about it. But if he wins all the time,
and a unique one, which makes it cool, like with the footwork and stuff, that's one thing that I love, and why I think that there's a chance he's not going to go through these swing issues that other players do. Is you look like Bubba Watson was one of those guys, not nearly to Scheffler's degree, but when you have your own swing, you trust it so much more, and it's not mechanical. And I think that, people kind of mock or whatever his footwork. Nobody hits the ball better. So obviously he knows what he's doing, and it's natural. And that's such a good thing for long-term consistency.
That is a good point. And, Jake, going into these events, you pretty much called this happening. I guess you've constantly been harping on playing Scotty in your DFS, making sure you're getting him in there because this type of thing is coming. Are you here with Keith and I, or do you think that this is kind of Scotty Scheffler's show and everyone else is just playing in it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's just one of those that if he had any ounce of personality, this would be so good for the PGA Tour. But like the only person more boring on the PGA Tour is probably Patrick Cantlay, and even he was causing a stir with the Ryder Cup, which I liked. A little bit of personality from Patrick Cantlay, and that was a big talking point and got people talking about golf, which is good. But like you said, Scotty's as clean as they come. He doesn't stir up the pot at all. He just goes out there, he ball strikes the crap out of it, and now he's learned how to putt apparently. So I hope that there's a little drama stirred between him. Give me like a rules violation, a penalty stroke. Give me something where in his post round he goes, "That's bullshit," or something. Give me some sort of like outburst of personality from Scheffler so that we can get behind it. But yeah, he is totally taking over the PGA Tour, and I'm one of those guys who I don't love Scotty Scheffler, so I'm kind of hoping for some of these other guys to start pushing his buttons a little bit and maybe take over that role and downgrade him from the king of the PGA Tour right now.
And it's funny, Full Swing, the second season just came out and things like that. They tried to put Scotty in there as much as they could. It just there's no content to produce out of him.
So because, so much of him and his wife going to get lunch.
Yes, you can, driving in the car. That's about it. That's the extent of what they could possibly do with Scotty. So, yeah, you mentioned he's cut and dry, but hey, it is what it is. And it's like you said, it's funny there that Patrick Cantlay may be the only most boring person, and then actually causes an uproar at the Ryder Cup, and there's a little bit of personality, I guess, there, but we still have
that personality out of Rory too, which was what was most shocking about it. It's like two guys that are robots were like pissed. It was great.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So let's hop into the players. Let's break down the course here right quick. Again, fifth major, biggest purse in the sport, 25 mil, 4.5 mil to the winner, top five, all clearing $1 million. I wish I was a little bit better at golf at this point when I'm reading these numbers, because it would be a lot better than what's going on now. But yeah, this is it is a signature event, but it's a full field signature event. What we've seen thus far throughout the first four, including the Century Tournament Champions, is limited field events capped at like 60 or 70 golfers, but 144 this week. So there's going to be a full cut. It's going to be just like it has been before they introduced these signature events with the limited field. So I'm very excited about that, to see a tournament of this status where, like we saw the Arnold Palmer last year with the Kurt Kitayama coming out of nowhere to win with these long shot Cinderellas. Excited to see that possibility here at the Players and what this tournament can bring. And, if someone were to be a long shot to win this would pretty much change their lives, change their careers for the better. That's always good to see. But you mentioned it there, Keith, 13 of the last 14 winners have been within the top 45 of the OWGR. So it is one of those events super hard to do, but that's because this course takes a very well-rounded game to do. You mentioned it as well. TPC Sawgrass was literally made for this event. It was made to host the Players and challenge everyone that came here. That's the only reason this course exists. And, again, outside of maybe what the Masters at Augusta, it is one of those courses pretty much established for a signature, for an established event. There's nothing beyond that.
Every year. Yep.
But yeah, of course, world number one Scotty opened at like, what would he open, like 5.5, somewhere around there, 6.5. So again, we talked about Scotty enough already, but man, those odds are again going to creep down to prime Tiger Woods numbers at some point. When
all you gotta do, hope he gets off to a slow start, or either hope that somebody gets off to a fast start, and you live bet him like I did at the Hero World Challenge. He was 14-1, 5 shots back in the first round. Easiest money I've ever made in my life, as he just torched the field from that point. He played 5 holes. I was like, what are y'all doing, DraftKings? Thank you. But no, like we're at the point where we always say, if you're under, 10-1, and no offense to Rory and those guys, I'm never betting them anyway if they're anywhere near 10-1, because they don't win that often. But even with somebody like Scheffler at this rate, I would much rather take my chances of wait, and hopefully, again, he gets off to a bad start, or somebody gets off to a really fast start, and maybe his live odds, if they keep up, 10-12-1, now you can talk me into, he's on a heater, maybe the putter's working, let's do this. But plus 550, I mean, you got to be pretty, we're all degenerates, but I don't know if we're that big of degenerates, right?
Yeah, we talked about it in Discord this morning.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about it. I think everyone's kind of holding a barrel back to see if we can get, that 15-ish to 1 number if he starts 1 or 2 over and someone starts out hot. But like you said, like last year, he only won 2 or 3 times. I can't remember the number, but like that doesn't warrant a 5.5, 6 to 1. And he's won 2 times already on tour this year. But that being said, he won his 2 tournaments last year at the WM Phoenix and the Players. So those were pretty early on in the season. So 5.5 to 1 are now bet down to 5 to 1 already. Like, you miss me with that. I'm not going there.
Yeah, no one's.
And he does have 6 top 10s though in 7 events this year. So it's like, if he's figured anything out with the putting, because to your point, he won 4 times in the last basically 12 months, putting terribly. And then all of a sudden he had a good putting week. Look what happened. He ran away with it at a really good field. So it's one of the few times I don't like it, but I actually understand the sports book doing it instead of like Rory when he's 8-1. I'm like,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Like, what
Oh, yeah.
sucker is betting Rory 8-1 at this point in his career? And I love Rory,
We
but it's
talked
like,
about it.
yeah, they don't win. It's like the percentages do not match up at all.
Right. Nate and I talked about this last week with Tommy Fleetwood. He has 0 career PGA Tour events, and he's consistently between 20 and 40
Yeah.
to 1. Like, who is betting that number?
My
Like,
boy
there's
Cam Young's getting into that category. I love Cam, but he keeps creeping down. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, what am I doing? He doesn't ever win. Like, what's wrong with you, Keith?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and someone has to do it for the number to remain there, so people are doing it. But you mentioned it's a completely different thing to win on the PGA Tour. So until you're there, you don't know how to do it. And then again, so many things go wrong. So if you have never done this before and you're a Tommy Fleetwood at 18-1, 20-1, Cam Young, same status, Rory McIlroy at this point in his career, 8-1, 10-1, I don't understand it, not touching those figures. But yeah, of course, Scotty Scheffler, all the tour's best will be here this week. It is one of the premier events. Former winners in this week's field: Justin Thomas. Well, I forgot to mention Scotty Scheffler, of course, defending champion. But and then who won in 22? I don't think I wrote that down because JT won in 21. Oh, it was Cam Davis, not Cam Davis, Cameron Smith.
Cam Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas 21.
They
Webb
erased
Simpson
him from history, like
Yes, he's
WWE
no
did
longer-
Chris Benoit.
no longer anywhere. Webb Simpson in 18, Siwoo Kim in 17, Jason Day 16, Ricky Fowler 15, Matt Kuchar in 12, and Adam Scott in 2004 of those in this field that have won this event before. But going back to TPC Sawgrass here, par 72, just about 7,200 yards. Again, Pete Dye design, probably his most famous design. I don't know, probably it is his most famous design. Of course, baits golfers into facing the extensive list of hazards head on. Again, built simply for the players to have a state-of-the-art tournament golf course stadium. 1970 construction here, a modern marvel and quintessential tournament stadium course that features some of the most pristine manicuring in the world of golf. I wrote that line, pretty proud about that one.
I like it. I thought AI had wrote it for you, so I'm really impressed.
There we go. It is one of the most, if not the biggest, risk-reward type tracks on the tour, as the constant hazard threat makes for a very volatile leaderboard. Water is in play on 17 of 18 holes. Quirky greenside bunkers that don't allow for smooth up and down are included. It mitigates the advantage of long hitters off the tee with the extensive list of hazards, as well as a plethora of dog legs going both left and right. It does reward an elite approach and short game. There's no doubt about that. Par fives or where scoring is done, you must take advantage of any and all par fives this week if you hope to win. The par 4 12th hole is a short par 4 as well that needs to be taken advantage of as well. It is, of course, most notably known for the Island Green. Probably one of the most recognizable holes in all of golf, maybe the most recognizable hole in all of golf. It is included in the final 3-hole stretch that is one of the best final 3-hole stretches on the PGA Tour. A lot of fireworks can happen here, and it is could get very exciting very quickly come Sunday, as either you're trying to hold on.
I've played this
or
course
chase.
a few times,
Okay.
and 17 is so overrated. It's a very
Whoa.
easy shot for those guys. Like when the wind's really up, totally different. But when it's not blowing hard, it's a wedge for these guys, and that is a humongous green. Now, if you want to talk about the tee shot on 18, that is an unbelievable tee shot. Like from where I played it, which again is probably 80 yards up from where they play it from, the fairway looks like it's literally about a foot wide, and all you can see is water to your left and trees on the right. It is just funny to me that 17 has always got the attention when I actually think 18 is the real thing. And look at it when Tiger got the surprise win in 2013. He wasn't hooting and hollering when he hit it on 17 in the middle of the green. When he striped that 3-wood right down the middle on 18, he did the club twirl and everything because he knew that was a really tough shot, and he pulled it off under pressure. So it's just funny how that stuff works. Again, it's a wedge for these guys. Now these guys are being like gap wedge.
Oh my gosh,
into that
yes.
hole, depending where the pin is. So I mean, these guys are good. That's a big green.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. I mean, I think it's more so just a picturesque aspect of this island green and
it's atmosphere
what
for sure.
and what it's been known for. Again, the weather used to be a bigger factor than it has, but since it's moved up to March, it's kind of been more milder. And because of the move to the March, the course is played easier, softer, slower. Putting's a lot easier. Up and downs can be much easier. And heck, since it's moved to March in 2019, the average winning score is -15. So the course definitely changes in that aspect. So could see a decent low score this week to what you would typically think of when it comes to the players. But yeah, weather this week doesn't look that bad. Just typical Florida weather, scattered thunderstorms, chances, isolated thunderstorms, rain whenever it wants to. Nothing you can forecast, and it's just going to happen.
What they always put on the extended forecast down here this time of year is
Yes,
it's
right?
like literally if it's 2 days in front of you, it's like 20% chance of rain.
Yep.
And then anything 3 days further, it's 50-50 with sunshine and rain on the picture on Weather Channel. So they're it's a real science. You just have to trust them.
Easy enough. But Jake, anything about this course field event I forgot to mention you want to include right quick?
No, I think you covered it well. I mean, I'm excited. I think, in recent years, like the last 2 years, the Sunday 17 pin, like it's been kind of windy. So I remember that Cam Young shot on 17 where everyone is like, oh my God, this is dunking in the water. It's going right on the pin. And he stuck it to like 5 feet. And after the round, after he won, he was like, I did not mean to hit it that close. Like that was a total mishit, and I got super lucky. So I'm excited. I hope that there's wind. I hope there's a little bit of carnage because I love seeing it last week where it's not a birdie fest. These guys have to grind a little bit because, when we go out and play, double-digit handicap players, we are grinding for pars. So to watch the professionals struggle a little bit, it's nice to see.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, man. If I get par on a hole, I'm celebrating, man. I open with a par today. We're going low. But yeah, never do go low. But yeah, it is a good thing to see as just a golfer, and just it gives us some belief that if we watch professionals who do this better than anyone else in the world struggle, that it is okay for us to go out there and shoot 20 over, right?
Exactly.
All right,
You
Keith,
need to go on
anything?
Golf Digest. You can see they have handicaps like by percentages. And if you're in the 20 to 30, trust me, you are nowhere near the worst golfers in the world.
There
I
we go.
promise you that.
Give me some confidence right there. Keith, anything you want to add here before we move on?
I still have not completely dove into the data the way I normally do. I'm a huge data nerd, I know. But I love looking at trends. That's always where I start at events, especially like this one. And there's some good stuff. 16 of the last 17 winners finished 23rd or better the previous player. So you need to look last year's leaderboard. That's where I would start. I was actually wrong. It's 19 of the last 20 winners at this event were ranked in the top 45 official world golf ranking. So again, this is an elite golf course. 11 to 12 finished 22nd or better in their previous start before the players. So that means they needed to either play well, whether it was this last week or maybe it was at the Honda, or excuse me, the Cognizant. It's so stupid. 12 of 13 of the last winners have played in at least 5 of these. So experience is important. 11 of the last 12 winners had a top 5 finish the calendar year before this event. So playing obviously well early in the season. Then we got 10 of 12 are top 45. And this is something that I am going to lean heavy into and always do. And strokes gained around the green on tour heading into this event, because it is a fairly difficult driving golf course. And if you miss the fairways, it's really hard to hit greens. And it's no, coincidence. Scheffler, right, won this event last year. He's like 7th on tour right now in strokes gained around the green. Justin Thomas won this 3 years ago. He's like 8th in strokes gained around the green. There's a reason those guys find success at this venue. And then one that I really love, we have now 5 straight winners. We're gaining 1.5 strokes or more per round in the 4 months heading into the players. There are 3 players in this entire field that will qualify for that trend. No surprise, Scotty Scheffler, 2.28 per round. What a freak. My boy Pavin, who continues to be disrespected, and I promise you I will talk about him in a little bit, 1.52 strokes, and the other is Xander Schauffele at 1.51. So again, 5 straight years. I consider that significant. I would heavily look at all 3 of those guys.
Some great information there. A lot of stuff that I never came across when I was doing my research. So I do appreciate that. Again, we're both stat nerds.
I'm a nerd, man. So
same here, man. Same here.
Some weird stuff.
I'm the one who wakes up at 4:00 in the morning to run golf models on Monday morning, just to make sure I get there before the lines drop.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
so let's hop into our DFS plays, guys. Each and every week we have 5 monetary categories off DraftKings scoring, of course, $10,000 plus, 9,000, 8 sevens, and 6,900 and below. So simply what we do, start at the top and make our way down here, and of course, kick off with a 10K plus. So I guess Jake, allowed to kick this off. Is this another just a chalk it up for Scotty Scheffler here in this price range?
It is not. I think Scotty's going to be like 35, 40% owns, which, I mean, that's completely warranted. Don't get me wrong. But if for some reason the putter just goes completely cold, he completely loses it and finishes outside the top 10, if you pivot off of Scotty Scheffler, you could have a super unique lineup and you could be, right in the hunt to win a tournament. You're knocking 30 to 40% of lineups out. So I'm going to Justin Thomas in the 10K range. We covered him pretty well already, right? Keith mentioned that he's, pretty good around the green, former winner at the Players. He's coming in on some great form. T12 last week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Just playing some really good golf to start the year, which we've covered over the past few weeks, right? A fifth at the Fortinet, a fourth at the Nedbank, a third at the Hero, a third at the American Express, a sixth at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a T12 at the Phoenix, and then a T12 at the API. So completely 180 from what we saw from Justin Thomas last year. And, he kind of gave us some hope on Sunday that like, oh, he might be able to do this, or on Saturday, you're like, oh, he's climbing up. But, just wasn't falling for him. API is a tough course, but he's won here at the Players. He's elite around the greens, one of the best in the field here. He seems to have gotten the putter figured out a little bit as well this year, which I love. And he's a great approach player. So it'll come down to the driving accuracy for JT. I think that's a pivotal spot for him. But at 10-6, I think that's my pivot spot off of Scotty at, very high ownership. And I think that's a pretty low price for Scotty.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's the ownership that's going to keep us away from Scotty. Of course, we want to play Scotty Scheffler in lineups this week. There's no doubt about that. But you mentioned it, Jake. If he were to, again, finish outside the top 5 and he's in a 40% own mark, there is no way for you to differentiate your lineups essentially to gain on the field if that were to be the case. So there are some other options in this price range. I think there's just a handful of them. You mentioned Justin Thomas there, and again, going back to JT, this is a world number 1 not that long ago. This is a guy who we thought would win every major he teed it up, every event he teed it up. Justin Thomas was that guy, and the big thing about JT is or his around the green work, right? That's where he differentiated himself from everyone else. Just the ability to pull off some shots that no one else in the world could. Of course, there are a few, but that's what set JT up. So, again, you mentioned there, Keith. Of course, it requires some uniqueness around the greens to scramble, save par, get up and down, or set yourself up for a tap in birdie or something like that. That's what's going to put yourself over the top here. And of course, Justin Thomas is one of the best in the world, even after a year of struggling. What he showed last year when he was able to put some stuff together was around the green work. That never really left him. It was the putter being ice cold, the driving problems, the approach numbers dropped for him. But again, the around the green work never really left for Justin Thomas a year ago. So, Keith, are you a Scotty believer here in this price range, or are we going to take one of these other guys?
So I'm a cash game guy. I do double ups
Okay.
and single entries only. So yeah, I'm gonna have Scotty Scheffler
Yep.
in my lineup.
For
He's
sure.
he's basically in the CMC range this year in DFS for me, where it's death, taxes, and playing Scotty Scheffler in cash. Absolutely. I do love the JT play though. He is gonna definitely be one of the people I mentioned in the bet at 22 to 1. I think it's good value there. He's got 6 top 35 finishes at this event in his last 8 starts here. So he loves this golf course. And I think the wet conditions, like if the fairways don't dry out, that's really good for JT because, to your point, his irons have been great. He's been really good with the wedge. And maybe he has a Scheffler week, right? Like he's due to have a hot putter one of these weeks because he's not putting great. Like he is putting better than he did last year because it was freaking awful. But he is not putting great by any means. But we know JT's always kind of a little streaky with that putter.
Yep.
And maybe at a venue, he's had so much success. He gets hot with a putter with his ball striking. He's going to win just about any week if he can have a putting week like Scheffler did last week.
Yeah, and then you mentioned my guy here when you talked about that final stat you love so much. That's Xander Schauffele. And so it's so hard because Xander, he hasn't really been in it, right? Not really some of these tournaments where he's actually, what was it? The the Genesis, right? Was that the one? Yes, that Hideki ran away with at the end, but that was the only one he's really been in. But Xander hasn't won on tour since Genesis Scottish Open in 22. And this is a top 5 guy. This is one of the most well-rounded golfers on the PGA Tour each and every season. And it's kind of mind-blowing he hasn't had a victory in a year and some change, right, to get to this point.
He's
So
got to start better. He's got a little Rory
That's the
going
thing.
where that Thursday's
Yep.
killing him, man,
That's the thing.
lately.
He needs to get out to a hot start. And I don't know what it needs to do, but you mentioned everything he does well. There's no really glaring weakness to his game. It's very well rounded, and maybe that's the problem, right? He doesn't have the ability to go zonkers with his iron play or with the putter, but everything's so well rounded. You would assume that he would be in contention much more than he is. But again, 11-3, yeah, a little pricey, right? But you're still below what 12-3 for Scotty. Rory's still there, and I mean, at this point of what's happening, I'm taking Xander over Rory, even just straight up. And Jake knows how I feel about Rory McIlroy at this point, but
Yeah.
it's not too good. But yeah, I mean, Xander has some good finishes in the season. You mentioned slow start to really get him down, but T4 at the Genesis, T9th Farmers Insurance, T3rd American Express, T10th Century Tournament of Champions, and again, he again, I guess the only downfall here, lines up statistically, everything you want there, but he doesn't have the best track record here at TBC Sawgrass. He does have a T2 back in 2018, but outside of that, he had 3 years of missed cuts. Last year was a T19. So,
but was in that top 22, which 17 of the last 18 winners had the year before.
There we go. So
he
he's
fits
there.
that mold too. Yeah.
And yeah, he comes with a great number on the betting card as well. 22-1 where I grabbed him. He opened at about 20, moved down to 22 as everyone kind of scampered to the top for maybe a Scotty or something. He slid down a little bit and I grabbed him there, right there with JT. But both those plays, I do enjoy those plays. And, unlike Keith, Jake and I play these big tournaments where you have tens of thousands of people that you want to compete against, and differentiating your lineup and doing so,
Yep.
I think would be great. And I feel like Xander, not being the most popular name right now or the hottest guy on tour, plus being pretty pricey. I mean, if you're going to spend up through 11-3, your eyes are going to gravitate towards Rory McIlroy just $300 more, or you're going to try to find a way to get Scotty in your lineup. You're going to either kind of skip where Xander is, move down to the lower tens where you can grab maybe a Victor Hovland if you were to say, or just skip this price range, go to the 9. So I think ownership may be in our favor this week for Xander.
Yeah, I'm on full avoid for Victor Hovland this week. His
Yes.
around the green last week was an absolute disaster. I found a tweet that was really alarming that like the woes are completely back. So last season he was 19th in sand save percentage, 48th in scrambling, and 86th in shots gained around the green. And this season he's 145th in sand save percentage, 144th in scrambling, and 173rd in shots gained around the green. So it looks like that is completely lost. So I'm on full avoid, but if you're looking for maybe an edge on a low ownership, if he can spike it, but I'm steering clear. I don't know about you
He
guys.
killed me last week because I was aware of that, but historically, all of his best around the green numbers came at golf courses with extremely firm conditions and thick rough around the greens. You look almost everywhere he's won, played well, similar things. So I was like, okay, he's got this shot. And it's really concerning to see because he hit the ball great. I mean, I unfortunately watched that crap 3 of the 4 days. And I mean, I don't know if him or Rory got less out of the rounds, but it was just sickening seeing how many times he would have these easy up and downs for birdies, like on the par 5s, and he just would like hit a horrible chip shot. So I completely agree with Jake there. And I mean, of course, that means he'll win this week, and I understand that, but I don't trust him. And this is also, he's had some trouble with some of these water courses. So I would be a little leery of that as well.
Yeah, this is kind of what we saw last year with Victor, right, where he was pretty much got off around the green. We get to the PGA Championship where he should have won that. If he was even somewhat confident around the green, he would be a major winner. Again, though, gave it away to Brooks Koepka there in the final few holes, really took him out of it because of that. But hopefully he can turn things around, because what we saw last year towards the end was superstar stuff out of Victor Hovland. He was on the cups of becoming, joining, I guess you could say, Scotty and Rory as, part of the new big three with Rahm leaving. But start of the season, it's not there. It's not there. So he is right there on the cups of superstardom, right? He's right there. So hopefully he can get some things figured out moving forward. So slide on down here to our $9,000 price range. And Keith, who do you like here?
I love this range. Oh my God. All right. Hideki 9,800. I love Hideki this week. 30-1.
This is Hideki course.
Finished
Yep.
5th here last year. 3 top 10s his last 6 appearances. And then the one that really got me, again, remember, strokes gained around the green is huge. Hideki Matsuyama, 3rd on tour, strokes gained around the green. I think he is a value on DFS. I think he's a value in betting this week. We know he's playing very well. He fits almost every one of the recent winter trends. Max Homa at 9,600 is another guy that, again, fits a lot of the bills. He finished 6th and 13th at this venue the last 2 years. So obviously, and I think that Nate made a very good point about the course has changed drastically since its move. So I would lean more into 2019 and forward data and not look so much at the way it played before, because it played at a much tougher venue. And we saw at the freaking Cognizant what happens when you do all your data, Keith, for a hard venue and then don't count for an extra par 5 being at, and these guys just obliterate the course. And it was one of my worst weeks I've ever had. So, but Homa is trending in the right direction. We were just saying a few weeks ago, what's wrong with Max Homa? And now all of a sudden he's playing really well. And what I love about Homa's recent run is Genesis, one of the toughest courses I play all year, finished 16th. Arnold Palmer, we know Bay Hill, one of the toughest courses to play all year. He finished 8th. So he is Farmers Insurance Open. Again, another one of the toughest courses all year, finished 13th. I think he's a real value at 9,600. And those are the two guys that I keep coming back to. The one guy that I'm curious to hear what you guys think about is we kind of have a rule with Morikawa, both for betting and also DFS. It's like once he gets to a certain price, it's kind of like this dude does win and kind of comes out of nowhere with a lot of these performances. And he's creeping into that range for me where I'm like, man, doesn't have a great track record here. Not even really in the best form, but it's just like, it's almost like a hunch feeling I have this week about him, especially with his pricing in DFS and his betting number, that he may end up on my betting board in DFS line. So I just warn you.
That's my pick. So
Okay, yeah, move right into it. I was just gonna say we had the same thing. What was it last week with Matt Fitzpatrick with you, Jake? It just where he fell on DFS and on the books. It's just like I don't need to look at the numbers. I just know the talent compared to where he is in both DFS and on the betting card. You just got to take him. And Colin Morikawa, like you said, is creeping there because man, when he's on, he is one of the best there is. I mean, when we talk about pure ball striking skills and approach play, things like that, there's very few that are more, pure ball strikers than Colin Morikawa is in the PGA Tour.
Right, and that's pretty much why I went with Morikawa this week. So last week he profiled really well for the API, and he absolutely screwed people with this Friday round, myself included. He went like 7 over, missed the cut in a no-cut event. So yeah, shout out to my lineup that had a 2 of 6. I had 4 people miss the cut in a no-cut event. Pretty much came in dead last. So
Adam Scott killed me, so don't feel bad. And the only reason I put him in my lineup was because I literally said in my article and everywhere that, well, I know he's going to make the cut. He's only got to beat like 10 people. Yeah, he didn't do that.
Nope.
Didn't.
But like you said, like Morikawa before missing the cut last week was playing some good golf. He won at the Zozo not too long ago. And even though the course history hasn't really been there, last year he finished T13 and he gained over 2.5 strokes per round on approach, which is what I like to see. We know he's elite off the tee. We know he's elite with the irons. It comes down to the putter for Morikawa. And at a course that's a little bit more difficult, the putter isn't necessarily the most important piece because everyone is missing putts. So after screwing people last week, I'm hoping to get a little bit of a discounted ownership on him in this 9K range. And I'm for sure going to be hammering him home in my lineups. I haven't gotten there on an outright yet, but it could be trending that way if you guys talk me into him.
Yeah, I think we did enough already, right? I mean, the value, just the name appeal, all of that is right there for him to have a competent week for you. I mean, again, he could do +7 on a Friday and take you out of it. But again, when he's on, this is a multi-time major winner. This is a guy who has one of the biggest stages in the world. So, I mean, what's there not to like about Colin Morikawa? I mean,
excels in these big field, like
he does
big events. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy because he'll frustrate you, but he's a guy that wins. Like, really, if you look at it, he's won as much as any of these guys. Yeah. And like, I would much rather take one of those guys at a value, even not in great form, than to your point, like Cam Young, who's $9,000 And I love Cam. He's playing great, but until he wins now, I'm done. Like I'm done betting
You
him.
got him.
And most week I'm not gonna do it on DFS either.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty rare that, some of these superstars, when they get the spotlight on them, some of them kind of crumble, and that is the complete opposite case for Morikawa. When the spotlight is on him, that is when he's playing his best. So that could happen this week. I think we're all on the same page there.
Hopefully. I mean, he's one of my favorite golfers on tour just
I like
because I love
Morikawa. Yep.
I just love a pure solid ball striker, and that's exactly what Colin Morikawa Colin Morikawa is, right? Jeez, man. I think I
He
haven't
wants
done
to
a
win
podcast in my
too,
life.
which I mean, that was one thing I took from the documentary last year. Was
yeah.
all he talked about was winning. Like that's what he wants to do. He wants to win. He wants to be one of the greatest ever. And I wish more golfers would talk like that. It's okay. Like we know how hard it
Yep.
is. You're not going to match Tiger's numbers. You're not going to match. But I just want you to know that like every week I want to kill these fucking dudes. Like I want to beat every one of them. I don't want to lose to any of them. And there's not enough of that, in my opinion. There's too much of a fraternity. And again, with the tour getting diluted, I worry about a sport that we love. And it's like, this should be a time for golf to be booming, not kind of getting broken apart at the seams.
Yeah, and that kind of moves me right into my pick. It's Jordan Spieth here at 9.5. And on the documentary, he talks about, we could be best friends, but the second we step foot on the tee, I want to rip your guts out, right? That's essentially, I want to beat anyone I'm going against. Justin Thomas is literally his childhood best friend. When it comes to the golf course, they're going to go against each other. But everything you mentioned, right? What is Jordan Spieth? What makes Jordan Spieth is the around the green magic. The
seventh this year on tour, strokes gained around the green. So
yes, the around the green, just some of the stuff he does, you can't put in a number. That just the eye test for Jordan Spieth and what made him so prominent in the 13, 14, 15 back when he won the majority of his tournaments. I think he's a 13-time tour winner. He's won majors and all that. But what made him is just being able to make nothing or something out of nothing. And again, you can't really take that and put it into a number. I mean, you can see maybe a scrambling number around the green, but some of the stuff that he put himself into, because again, what takes him out of it is his errant tee shots and some of the dumb moves that he makes, the aggressiveness really for him that could put him into trouble. But what made him good way back when, I mean, it's been close to a decade now, was the way he was able to make Spieth magic out of nothing. So that's what I'm going with this week. 9.5 right here in the middle. The stats, of course, you want to look at that, going back to what, some of your stats there, Keith. T19th here at season ago. So he's in line to do this, right? He's got everything that we talked about earlier. Again, not a crazy long, extensive course history here. I think his best was like a T4th back in 2014. But again, that was way back when the tournament was elsewhere on the schedule. So
and not playing as firm and fast helps Spieth too, right? Like, because it's more, again, he's like JT. It's more like he gets the ball in the fairway. And when he does that, Spieth is still really freaking good.
He is. And again, we talked about earlier how we wanted a villain in the world of golf to make the game better. The game is better when someone like Jordan Spieth is winning tournaments, right? When he's competing week in, week out, he's one of those guys that's going to pull in the average fan, just the guy who watches a few tournaments a season. Once he's back and competing, he's going to get more viewership to the PGA Tour.
Yep.
All right, on to our 8K right here in the middle. I guess I'll kick this one off here, and I'm just going back to the 2017 champion, Siwoo Kim, right at 8,000. I got to go here, right? We talk about these approach numbers, strong iron play. That's what Siwoo Kim does. Around the green, right outside your metric there, 53rd on that. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, right? But, he has won here before. He's done it. So this is the kind of the crowning jewel of Siwoo Kim's career. Of course, it's not crazy extensive, but he is a players champion all right back in 2017. But we talk about what he does, the scrambling, the approach numbers, the extremely accurate iron play. He is all right. So Siwoo Kim last week putting was awful.
Yeah.
Lost over 8 strokes on the tournament putting. But, he did gain strokes, although slightly back at the WM Phoenix Open. Just barely, but that's what we need Siwoo Kim to do. We don't need him to go out there and gain 8 strokes or 4 strokes. We just need him to get that even number, and the rest of the game elevates him. We talk about this often with a lot of these guys because for some reason, when it comes to the top of the tour, who are the ones at the top of the tour? It's the extremely strong off the tee approach numbers, tee to greens. That's what puts guys top of the tour. We have the world's best putters, outside the top 100 of the OWGR, top 75. Putting really doesn't win you tournaments, it loses you tournaments though. So we get him to even with the approach numbers, track record here. I mean, outside of that victory in 2017, this is a guy who, kind of has made a living taking apart this course. I'm trying to find the stats here off the top of my head. I don't know why it's diluted here. Okay, yeah, he was T9th in 2021, withdrew in 22, but outside of that, he's made the cut in each of the 6 times he's played here. Yeah, so a proven track record, former winner. Everything you need to know about Siwoo Kim is right here. Again, 8,000 ownership may be high because of a former winner status, but again, I couldn't ignore Siwoo Kim here at 8K.
Holy shit. Looking at his strokes gained at TPC Sawgrass, 1.63 for his career, tee to green, 1.42 ball striking. So he likes this golf course.
This is one of those things where we see this with a few golfers, even like Jason Day to an extent last week at Bay Hill. It just, for some reason, some courses and golfers, they just click. And I think this is it for Siwoo Kim.
Yeah, we just gotta hope for the putter, right? Like if he has a putting week like he did last week, we'd be in some trouble. But yeah, just get to even. It's one of those. Everything else will come with, like you said. But going to my pick in the 8K range, I'm going with a fellow South Korean that is Nate's favorite golfer. I would say I'm going with Tom Kim at 8,100. It makes no sense, right? Like Tom Kim has not been playing that great to start this year, but I remember I take notes before and after each tournament just so I can reference them. And last year, before the tournament, I wrote Tom Kim will be a players champion someday. Accurate off the tee, elite with approach. You know, he gains around the green generally, and he's a good putter. So it's one of those that I'm going to keep my coin on Tom Kim, even though he is not playing so great. He had a T51 here last year, which, you know, isn't so good, but it's one of those that this year has not made a lot of sense in a lot of factors. And I'm willing to go stick to my guns, stick to my notes. And, you know, I think Tom Kim, you know, is going to be a players champion someday. So why not roll him out here at some lower ownership when he's just not playing some great golf?
Yeah. So obviously Tom Kim's probably my favorite guy on tour. I think that's well known, right? Absolutely love the guy. And I mean, not only I have a true belief that he's going to be a multi-time major winner when it starts to click. Let's not forget this man is 21 years old, right? He's 21, 2-time winner on tour. He's been there. I mean, the Open last year really showed what this guy's about, you know, pretty much tearing ligaments in his feet and then still coming in to finish, what was it, third, fourth, somewhere around there. But yeah.
Second at the Open.
I'm just proud of him for the time that it looked like he shit his pants and he played the rest of the round, even though he just fell in the mud. Yeah, I mean, that's a man right there. He was like, I'm good.
Pride.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about Tom Kim, but yeah, I mean, what you need about this golf course, we see it with the makeup of these Korean golfers who play indoor golf growing up, is that's what's going to happen. They're going to have super strong approach play. They're going to be accurate, but what's their problem? It's the putting surfaces, because artificial putting doesn't transfer over to real life putting. So that's really what fault. There's a lot of these Asian-based golfers. We see it with Hideki, you know, historically a bad putter. Even all of the greats, the South Korea, all of these guys, they're just poor putters, and that's because, you know, artificial doesn't transfer over. But again, Tom Kim someday has superstar potential. I mean, I don't think people remember how young this guy is and what he's able to do. I mean, he's matched Tiger Woods.
Accomplished. Yeah,
he's matched Tiger Woods as, you know, the youngest guy to win twice by 21.
Yeah, and he won on tour 6 months ago. That's not that long ago in the terms of golf. You know, he won at the Shriners,
especially with the down season, right? Yeah, like
right, exactly. So it's one of those that I'm kind of hanging my hat on. You know, he profiles well here. He might not be playing the best golf right now, but you know, I like his long-term stats at this course. And you know, if everything clicks, why not him this week?
There we go. So who are we playing here, Keith?
Do want to mention two guys real quickly before I get into mine. Day at 8,900 to me feels like a real value. He is top 10 on tour and strokes gain around the greens right now. He's got experience here. I believe, yeah, it's 3 top 35 finishes in his last 4 trips to TPC Sawgrass, and and he's won here. But I mean, that means he's played it well since the course has kind of adjusted, not played quite as firm and fast. And he's just, I mean, if he can have, he's another one of those guys. If he can get a good week off the tee, like, look out. And I just feel at 8,900, I know I mentioned Homa. Outside of Hideki and Scheffler, I would probably go all the way down to Day before I have somebody that I feel really confident they're going to make the cut and, like, you know, be around on Saturday, Sunday. Finau feels like a real discount this week at 8,500. He's been in every lineup I've made so far, just because I'm like, really? Finau's 8,500? Dude makes a ton of birdies and eagles. He finished top 20 here last year. He's playing, if you look at it pretty well, played 2 tough venues and, did well at both of them in his last 2 events. So I think that's a real value. But it's all about Minwoo Lee. Come on, man. AK, Minwoo Lee, he finished 6th here in his first time ever playing. I want to show you his strokes gained numbers. First time ever playing here. 1.09 tee to green, 0.74 ball striking, 0.72 on approach. That was his first time ever playing here. He's shown he plays these risk-averse courses really well. I was shocked. Like, I had him included in the Cognizant just because he was so cheap. I couldn't not play him, right?
Everyone.
But I was shocked how well he played. Like, I did not expect him to be the guy, kind of making a run on Sunday/Monday. I think he is an unbelievable value at 8K. He's playing great. He's played difficult golf courses well this year. And again, look at the trends, right? The one trends that he doesn't fit is that, they play, I think it's like 11 out of the last 13, and played at least 5, events here. He didn't have the history, but the fact that he finished 6th the first time he teed it up here and did that well, tee to green and ball striking, that's a really good sign. And he's another one of those dudes that if he just has a good putter week, like, look out. Because last year, I think he lost almost half a shot on the greens, and that's why he finished 6th. But at 8K, I think he's a great value. At 55 to 1, it's probably my favorite bet to win this week.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that call out. He's an absolute elite ball striker. He's gained over a stroke per round on approach in his last 2 starts. Like you said, it comes down to the putter, but I love that call out at 8K. That is for sure a good play in DFS. And, even tempting in an outright, right? He fits most of the
55 to 1,
criteria.
I definitely will be. I promise you, I'll be putting a few bucks on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, this was our introduction to Minwoo Lee on the PGA Tour last season. For those who
Yep.
not, well versed in the DP World Tour, this was it. This is what we have: a mysterious Asian man from Australia with a deep Australian accent wearing all black.
So thin mustache.
Yeah,
Yep.
on a Saturday and Sunday, we're like, who is this character? Like, this is type of a looks like someone created their guy like in PGA Tour 2K, right?
Like,
Where
is
they
this a redneck Asian? Because I didn't
Yeah.
know they made those. Got the mullet, the pencil thin mustache. Like, he could fit in South Georgia.
with
for
such a
sure.
deep Australian accent. It kind of threw me off, not gonna lie to you, when the first time I met him. But man, he is one of those characters on tour that it is just good for the game of golf. If he were to win, it would elevate things to the moon, right? It'd be so exciting. But yeah, again, the introduction to him last year was here at T6 out of nowhere. Obviously, no one was on him for that, but everything else checks out, right? So why not meet Minwoo Lee? And you're getting such a great value at 8K. I would, in the sake of what Jake and I do, I would argue the ownership number being so cheap down here for Minwoo Lee and how popular, not only just because he's a really good golfer, just how popular of a personality he is as well, will garner some ownership in that sense. But man, if you're grabbing a guy in the 8K range and he goes on to top 5, top 10, the ownership can kind of washed, right? Because you're going to spend up elsewhere in the 9s and the 10s where you can differentiate from the rest of the lineups.
Yeah, and he's won 2 tournaments in the last 6 months. Granted, one on the Asian Tour and one on the DP World Tour, but winning 2 golf tournaments in the last 6 months is impressive on any level that you do it. So definitely like his pedigree. He's got a ton of swag, and I think we covered it well. I like him a lot this week.
Full field too. He's made the cut in
Yep.
16 straight events since this season has started, both on the DP World Tour and PGA. I don't think we understand how hard that is to be
Yeah.
going back and forth, and he continues to make cuts. That's obviously a big deal with a full field, something we haven't had to worry about as much as you need 6 guys to make the cut. So, but I agree that he's definitely a better cash game play than MME.
For sure. So let's slide down here to the 7K price range, and there's a lot of great value here. I like a lot of guys in this range. But yeah, Jake, who are we leaning towards?
Yeah, I'm going with a name that I don't usually say often. It is going to be Alex Norn at $7,200.
That's my play too. That's my play.
He's one of those that like he never garners ownership.
No.
Like no matter what form he's in, like for some reason people just hate playing him. And I was on that boat until I realized that like he can spike finishes and at like 5% ownership in these big contests. So what I like the best is that he's a great putter and he's great around the green, and he's gained in his last 3 in both those categories over his last 3 starts, which is important here. We want some short game action, but at the Cognizant, he gained a stroke and a half per round on approach, which is also, he's getting hot with the irons. Not the longest off the tee, not the most accurate off the tee, but to start this year, he's been relatively accurate off the tee, which again is important. So I think he profiles well here at a low ownership. I couldn't help myself but go to Norton at 7,200.
Yeah, like I just mentioned, that's my play this week as well. Um, Again, how many times does Alex Noren's name come out of your mouth?
Yep.
What, twice a year? And for some reason, my model popped him this week. I mean, there's some decent finishes. T9th, Cognizant Classic, you mentioned it there. Out of the gate in his last outing, T25, the American Express, some decent performances there. And he placed T26 2 years ago here. I think he missed the cut here last year, though, but also placed 10th in 2017, T17th in 2018. And yeah, he avoids the bogeys. He's a great scrambler. Around the green work is there. He's a very good putter on Bermuda grass. And if you're ever looking for strokes game putting per grass type specifically, you can find that at weknowfantasy.com. Check there for that. But yeah, I mean, you're finding a great resume for here at 7-2. That's going to be, I mean, less than 1%, 2% ownership on DFS, right? So
Wins
yeah,
pick up, he plays well and win. Like I
yeah,
think it's a very solid
he's
pick.
from Sweden, so of course, growing up playing in harsh conditions, a lot to love about Alex Noren this week, and I'm right there with you. And if I had to differentiate here, I'm going Keith Mitchell at 7-5. I've been on Keith a bit recently for whatever reason, but the approach numbers are always going to be there. He has played this event 5 times, I believe, and missed the cut just once. So he knows his way around this course. Has some good performances as well this season. T13th at this event in 2022. Ball striking off the tee, par fives, approach numbers, everything's there for Keith Mitchell. So just another name I had to throw out there, but Noren is my play in this price range.
Yeah, just one more thing to mention. Sorry. Yeah, 8 of the last 10 winners have come from the AM wave in round 1 and PM wave in round 2, and only 2 have come in the vice versa over the last 10 years. So that's another thing that I've been looking at. And one of my lineups is definitely going to be an AM PM stack. So Noren kind of fits that bill teeing off in the morning. I know the tee times were released, early this afternoon, but just another added nugget there.
10-4. So, Keith, who is your play here in the 7K price range?
Well, again, I apologize. I got a few. This is the way my brain works. Tom Hoge is somebody you should look at 7,800.
Always.
Ball
Yep.
striker. Kind of, I mean, same thing you're saying about Noren. Nobody seems to ever own him. He's finished 33rd or better in 4 straight trips here, 3rd last year. So coming in really well. I think Eric Cole's being really disrespected again, and that's a problem for me because I've been on Eric Cole for now 2 years. 7,700 is bullshit.
Yep.
Playing a course that it's going to matter if you basically do well around the green or good with your wedges and iron play. I know the driver can be concerning with Cole, but this is a course you don't have to hit driver. Like he doesn't, and usually when he does not have to hit driver, he plays really well at those courses. When he has to hit driver, I mean, obviously if he hits it well, he plays well. If he doesn't, that's when he has some of these struggles like he has in the last couple of weeks. Hadwin, again, another discount at 7,500. He's in great form, really striking the ball well. But ultimately, I love Cam Davis here at 7,000. Yep. Finished 6th here last year. What's kind of insane, he's gaining almost a full stroke on the greens at this event. His ball striking has improved the last couple of years. His chipping is getting better. And I love the fact that he finished 6th last year, which really last year was really, to me, when Cam became more of a complete player. And I just think this is a course that fits his game well. Again, these guys from, Australia, Europe, etc., they seem to just kind of feast on these difficult courses with a lot of trouble. And it's no offense. It's because the Americans grow up playing bomb and gouge, and these guys learn how to play golf. And it's why we get our ass beat in the Ryder Cup when we don't have a bomb and gouge golf course. So I think he's a real value at 7K, and I would not be the least bit surprised if he's in contention to win, and he's one of my long shots at 90-1 this week.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned it there. I mean, all Europe has to do is grow out the rough a little bit, and Team USA can't compete, right? So
there's some hazards out there.
That's it. I mean, then you speak of Australian golf, where it's just stand with a strip of grass down the middle. That's all you got too. So yeah, it's Cam Davis was a guy I was on early this season. Popped a lot of models right quick out of the gate. Let me down a few times, but man, he does what you need, right? He's gonna each and every week. I haven't gravitated towards playing him recently, but he's going to offer great value each and every week down here in the 7Ks, 6Ks sometimes, and just offer you a great long shot with some consistent backing of them with not only the stats but performances as well.
And in this price range, again, for DK, even if he doesn't ball strike it great, I feel pretty good about him making the cut because he's so good on and around the greens to where he can scramble and make a cut at this event. And if it's kind of like the inverse of some of these guys are talking about, if they putt well, they're going to definitely be in contention. I feel like if he strikes the ball well,
Oh yeah,
he's probably going to be in contention, right? Like, because he's going to be able to chip and putt so well. He always does that.
we talk about that often, right? We always talk about the spike putting weeks. Oh, this guy needs a spike putter, but you can also spike around the green. You can spike with your irons. There are other ways to spike outside of just using the putter. So there are weeks where, for some reason, just you feel more crisp with your irons and you can hit the sweet spots more often. It happens. So you mentioned it there. Already a confident putter. If you can get a spike week with the iron play, watch out. All right, on to the final price range here, and I'm too giddy not to leave this one off, so I'm going Doug Gim at 6,800. Man, I don't know if my model was broken. I ran it a few times, but man, it kept pumping out Doug Gim this week, and I'll tell you why. Right, currently fifth on tour in par five scoring. You need that this week. Take advantage of that. Seventh in ball striking. That's 7. 12th in approach and bogey avoidance. 13th in driving accuracy. 32nd in scrambling. 34th off the tee. Again, 65th around the green, not ideal. But if we take a look at what really takes Doug Gim out of things, it's the putter, right? We talk about this all the time, but much improved putter this season. He's gained 1.353 at the Farmers, 1.12 at the WM Phoenix Open, and his last outing at the Cognizant Classic, 4.747 on the greens. Of course, similar course, similar grass, both Bermuda greens. So love to see that here between the two. And, the form he's on, he's one of the hottest golfers on tour. Last outings, T16th at the Cognizant, T8th Mexico Open, T12th WM Phoenix Open, T13th at the Farmers Insurance Open. And yeah, although he did miss the cut here last year, I will talk that, but T6 in 2022 here at the Players for Doug Gim. I've and then
29th
also
the year before. And I just
29th, yep.
want to add one more thing because I love Gim this week. You talked about, his putter, right, has been better this year. This is actually one of the few venues historically he puts great at. He's gaining 0.25 strokes for his career at this venue. That's huge for a guy that is more of a ball striker.
Yep.
That he obviously likes those greens. So I think that's a great play. It was definitely one of the guys I was considering this price range.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself because he's on the betting card at 170 to 1. But so I built my card about 6:30 this morning and went to load my funds, forgot to come back to it, and it was about 4 hours later when I went to double check things, card still sat there unsubmitted. So I lost a lot. He was at 200 to 1, moved down to 170. Same thing. I had Spieth and Sam Burns at 40 to 1. They're down to 33 and 35 respectively. So kicking myself for that. But man, 171 for Doug Gim, a good track record here, super hot form, and playing some fantastic golf.
You're probably getting like what, 8 to 1 for him to top 20, 7 to 1?
Oh, I'm sure somewhere around there. I haven't checked, but that's got to be where the numbers are match up.
Yeah, that'll definitely be on my betting card this week. Again, he finished 29th and 6th of 2 previous years when the course was playing similar to the way. I mean, he had a bad year last year. That happens, but 2 out of 3 times with those numbers. Love that play.
Yeah, especially down here, 6K and 170 to 1 on the betting card. I mean,
absolutely.
Gotta love it. So who we got here, Jake? I know you usually have about 13 guys.
Well, this is my guy, man. That's what I am.
I have to mention at least 2 names here. So the first one's going to be Aaron Rai at $6,400. The putter has been crappy, right? I'm not going to shy away from that. He's an extremely accurate driver of the ball, extremely crisp with the irons, and he's a competent around the green game. So in the 6K range, you're not getting the most complete player unless, Doug Gim kind of profiles perfectly as we've outlined.
He does.
But, if Aaron Rai could putt a little bit, the driving accuracy and the iron play are there for him at $6,400. That's the mid sixes. I don't know how much ownership he's really going to garner there. But for my degens who need to dip into the 5K range and need to go low into that 5K range, I am going to be playing Steve Stricker at $5,200. So he has been absolutely dominating the Champions Tour. Like, he wins like every other event there. And, of course, it's not at the pedigree of the DP World Tour or some of these other tours where they're fighting for, PGA Tour shit, cards and stuff. So Korn Ferry Tour in particular, but Stricker's just been dominating that tour. And, it's hard to think that he isn't playing great golf. So over his long-term statistics, he's a very accurate driver of the golf ball and very good around the greens. And he putts to about average, and on approach, he's about average. So, It's one of those, if you find yourself in a jam and need to play someone that low, I like Stricker as an option there.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a lot worse. And this week, if you are to plug Scotty Scheffler at 12-3, you're going to be more than forced to dip yourself in the 5K unless you get super creative and avoid the nines and the eights. But if you're able to Scotty and then so we're in the nines, we talked about the guys we love almost several in the 9K price range. Got to go in the fives. And you mentioned it. Maybe it's not to the extent of, fighting for, tour membership on the Champions Tour. But, if you're winning as regularly as he does, he's obviously playing some good golf. So, I mean, you can do a lot worse. And it's a great shout out, in my opinion.
I'm trying to figure out so did he get in the field because of like the senior PGA or?
It must have been something like that. I mean, he has some good finishes here, but those date far back. His last appearance
Well,
was
yeah,
in
but I mean, he hadn't,
2021.
well, that's what I was saying, he hadn't played it in a minute, but this is definitely a Stricker course. He's one of the best wedge players around the green ever. So, he doesn't even move his wrist, which is always freaky to watch. Like literally just rocks, but it's so great. His hands are so good.
In his last 25 starts, he has 9 wins. That's crazy.
That's unreal. See,
I mean,
that
they're all
shows how
Champions
little we
Tour.
pay attention to this Champions Tour because I had no idea. And he's won what? That's like almost
Yeah, the only reason I pay
35% of
attention,
them.
the only reason I pay attention to is because they host one 30 minutes from my house in Binghamton, New York, at Endicott at the Dick's Sporting Goods Open. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, why not go see some of these guys? But that's the only extent of the Champions Tour I ever get into. Or if I fall asleep on the couch watching some PGA Tour and it, ends and I wake up and the Champions Tour is on. That's about it. All right, Keith, who are we playing down here?
Again, I got just a couple of guys. Pavon at 6,700. What the fuck?
Criminal.
What is wrong? Like, what is wrong? And he's not that high owned. I used him last week. And again, he was not that high owned for his price. I don't understand it. This guy is top 5 on tour and total strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained around the green, strokes gained putting. What do you need? And he's still, like, I know he's fell off a little bit, but he's still making good finishes and playing well. He had a disastrous Sunday. You can throw that out. But outside of that, I mean, he's playing really well in these difficult events. So to me, that's just like, again, it's ridiculous. And him 150 to 1. Whew, I already bet that. The other guys I really like, Putnam, Andrew Putnam, 6,300. This is a Putnam course. Yep. He actually has a little bit of a track record here. Had a couple, I think it was maybe 1 or 2 top 20 finishes. And he's playing well. He did it again last week. Ended up, I think, backdoor top 10ing. He is somebody that anytime it's a course that's going to kind of de-emphasize length because there's rough everywhere. And it's putting more emphasis on, being able to get up and down around, especially again in this price range. Putnam is always somebody I think is a value. And then I do want to mention Mark Hubbard, who is the kind of player who always I look for on ball striking courses. He's 5,800 this week. I feel like that is an unreal value for a guy who really makes the cut all the time. Like if you look at it over the last 3 years, he makes the cut in just about every event. And he actually had his first good finish here last year, T30. I do also want to bring up something which you said with Rye, which I think that is a great play. I'm not going to tell Alan I'm playing him though, because anytime I give Rye, he plays awful. So I'm going to not jinx it. But I want to add to that. Last year, he lost strokes off the tee to green, ball striking, and on approach. He gained around the greens and putting. That is not the Rye we know, but that shows he feels comfortable on these greens, which is really good. And I think that's an unreal value at 6,400 because he is somebody that, man, when he gets those irons going, he is as good of a ball striker as anybody in the world.
Yeah, those 2 black gloves, everyone thinks that it's really tough to watch, myself included, but those irons could get really dialed. And,
really
you spoke about Hoagie before, Rye is the discount version of Hoagie with those irons if he gets them going.
All right, guys, there we go. There's our DFS plays. And for the sake of time management here, we're going to skip the betting card segment. I mean, we pretty much talked about all of our bets throughout the podcast anyways. We just basically reiterated on ourselves because we covered a lot of content, a lot of guys there, especially with 3 of us here and a lot of guys down the road there. But yeah, we're approaching some longer podcast here, but man, it's the players. We love to talk about it. We have Keith here. We would love to have Keith on. And Keith, just want to thank you for hopping on here again, man. It's always a pleasure to chat some golf with you.
Absolutely, man. You guys do great work. I make sure to always check out your plays before I finalize my stuff. And I tell people you should kind of zone in. It's okay to, obviously you want to trust your gut, but you do need to have one or two people that you just trust. And I know you guys always put in the work, and I really appreciate that. And I mean, it's just like today, like Rye was somebody I was not considering. He's definitely going to be somebody I'm going to be hitting hard. Gim is another one that just, I love that kind of stuff. And, you can still take other people's information and put that into your own as well. So keep up the great work. And anytime you guys need me, would love to come on.
Appreciate that. And that's the same thing here when I chatted up here with Jake, even if it's not even on the podcast, pre-podcast, post-podcast, he'll mention something. I'm like, wait a second. I look it up. Next thing I know, I'm adding my card, changing my DFS lineup just because of something he brings to the table. Like you said, it's great to have other people to bounce back on. I mean, we both put in extensive work here. You do as well, Keith. Just the amount of work that go into it. We're just, sports gambling set up in a way that we're not supposed to make money off of it, right? We're supposed to lose money, and that's why casinos are billions of dollars, and that's why this happens. But it's always great to have someone to bounce ideas off of or get a second input, because I'm one to get narrow-minded sometimes when I'm doing some golf. Specific stats, specific golfers already have this conceived notion of some guys that I want to maybe force my way into getting into my model, into my card. So I may skew things that way, but then I hop on a podcast here with you, Keith, you, Jake, and it just helps to loosen things up and, change things for us. And again, when there's 144 golfers, there's no way we can dive deep into each and every one of them. So it's great when someone else is to do some of that work for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I come into these podcasts, like 75, 80% of the way of like, all right, I know I'm doing this, I know I'm doing that. But once we start to talk, that, 20, 25% starts to creep in where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Or, oh, I didn't really think about that. Let me go back to the drawing board. So it's super helpful to have, intuitive guests like Keith on here and to talk with Nate every single week about it. So yeah, I love what's going on here. It's a good gig we got.
It feels good too, right? When you know that you made such a good case for somebody. Because like Alan does this all the time, where I can like kind of see him, and then I always make him send me his betting card. And when he has somebody he had not talked about that I basically hyped up, I was like, I convinced you. So you can yell at me come Sunday, or maybe even Friday if they missed the cut. So, but it is great when you could, change somebody's mind, because we all do a lot of this stuff and obviously take it seriously and a lot of research. And so I feel like if you can change somebody's mind with somebody, you made a really good argument and showed a lot of information. And that's all we're doing, right? It's guesswork at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
But it's educated guesswork. And if you use the data and stuff to your advantage, you come out on top a little bit more, and you end up losing.
That's funny, because there'll be times that Jake's talking about someone. So I'm, looking at my model or looking at their stat page. I kind of zone out. And then next thing you know, I'm diving deep into these guys. Jake gets done talking. There's a little pause before I realize what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. I was on DraftKings. I'm placing a bet on who you're talking about, just because but man, it's always a pleasure. Keith, one more time, where people find you on social media.
It's at Keith Fleming. That's KEITHFLEMMING. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I try to respond to everybody. If you have a question, golf, DFS football, whatever. And have been doing giveaways the last 6 months because I have a lot of sports memorabilia and cards. My wife is tired of looking at all my sports memorabilia and cards. So every time I gain 100 followers, give something away. All you have to do to be eligible for that is be following me. I'll send out a post. You comment with a 1 to whatever the number is for that giveaway. And you can potentially win some free stuff. Gave away an Aaron Rodgers jersey recently, a Packers one, by the way, a Man City jacket. And then I think I recently gave away a Miko Hardman PSA autograph card. So got a lot of junk that my wife wants to get rid of, but you know how it is. As George Carlin says, why is other people's stuff junk? And, it's your stuff. So hopefully I can make what my wife considers junk your stuff.
There we go. Yeah, I went through that recently. I had another kid, so my man cave became a nursery. So, so we had to find a new home for some of my belongings, as the rest is just stuffed away in a closet.
They don't have very much sympathy where it goes either, do they?
No, they don't. They don't. It's just crumbled up in the corner of my closet, or it's out the door. But Jake, where can we find you on social media?
Yep, you can find me at DJ Freeman on Twitter. Make sure to join our Discord. We continue the conversation there each and every week, pretty much all hours of the day. So any questions you have from listening to the podcast or just something random that popped into your mind, be sure to hop in there and just ask the group. You won't just get Nate and myself's opinion. You'll get everyone in the group's opinion, and we have some really smart people who do a lot of good research in there. So it's really valuable to join that. So you could find that link on my Twitter or Nate's Twitter or in my article on the We Know Fantasy website.
There we go. And as always, follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKFNate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. Till next time, guys, we'll see you.